Liminality, the concept of being in a transitional or threshold state, has played a significant role in the history of the horror genre. The idea of liminality in horror can be traced back to the early days of Gothic literature, where the liminal spaces of castles and ruins were used to create a sense of unease and danger. It's this liminality that is the jet fuel that powers Kyle Edward Bell's viral juggernaut, Skinamarink.
Skinamarink recalls many surrealist films of the past, especially the work of Louis Buñuel, L'Âge d'Or and Un Chien Andalou. Buñuel joined with fellow surrealist Salvador Dali to craft a largely plotless film in Andalou that evoked unease and disgust in the viewer through seemingly unconnected vignettes. It's probably not surprising that Buñuel was raised Catholic but educated by the Jesuits. That's a recipe for subversion. To the extent that Skinamarink has a plot, it involves two children, Kaylee and Kevin, stuck alone in a house when their father disappears in the middle of the night. The film is shot in such a way as to feel as if we're seeing things from the children's point of view, even when they're in the frame. Many of the shots are looking up at the ceiling or at the tops of doorways, as if the camera is 3 feet off the ground. Rarely do we get traditional shots. There are limbs, body parts, toys, TV screens, and shadows.
Skinamarink is a film that operates primarily in the shadows. It's the negative space where the bad things hide, after all.
The surrealistic style and glacial pacing is bound to be off-putting to many mainstream viewers looking for a traditional horror experience. But the film operates on a visceral, not intellectual level. Watching the film, one finds themselves sucked in, not to a narrative, but to a game of searching the shadows for some glimpse of a presence, good or evil. In this way, it provides the same kind of nail-biting experience as the Paranormal Activity films. But with Skinamarink, the explanation is always just out of reach. The problem with the film for most viewers will be that there is none of the ebb and flow of traditional storytelling. Most horror media, whether it's a film, television show, or book, will ratchet up the tension to nearly intolerable levels before releasing that tension with a jump scare, a misdirection, or even a joke. Skinamarink just continues to rev the engine continuously, which will burn out most of its mainstream viewers. For those able and open enough to engage with the film as a surrealist experience, they are rewarded with almost unbearable tension. In one of the earliest academic studies of liminality in horror, Barry Keith Grant argues that the horror genre is characterized by liminal spaces and moments, like the doorway of a haunted house, the space between the normal everyday world and the horrific. These liminal spaces and moments create a sense of uncertainty and danger, which is essential to the horror genre.
Liminality and horror have always been intertwined in the surrealist movement. The concept of liminality, being in a transitional or threshold state, and surrealism, a movement in art and literature that seeks to express the subconscious mind through fantastical and irrational imagery, have been used together to explore the human experience and the nature of reality.
This fact led art critic Jörg Heiser, in Liminality and the Horror Film, A Cognitive Approach, to state that the horror genre is characterized by a sense of uncertainty and ambiguity, which is created using liminal spaces and moments. Heiser suggests that these liminal spaces and moments are often used to create a sense of cognitive dissonance, where the viewer is unsure of what is real and what is not. This cognitive dissonance is essential to the horror genre, as it creates a sense of the irrational in the viewer. And Skinamarink is a film that doesn't operate on a rational level.
Dad?
Most horror films place the viewer in an unpleasant situation and ask us to imagine what it's like. Yes, it would be horrible to be stuck without a phone or a car and discover that your friends had been killed off and that you were in danger. Yes, it would be horrible to have your mouth stitched to the anus of another person. Yes, it would be horrible to be stuck in a car with Kevin Spacey. But these horrible situations are horrible because we think ourselves into the hypotheticals. We don't feel them. Like any surrealist experience, Skinamarink is essentially an empty glass that you pour your own psyche into and see what it produces. Is the film a metaphor for SA? I mean, maybe. Is Kevin dead and stuck in purgatory? And this is Belle's way of exploring the ideas of the nature of the imperfectly purified? Yeah, why not? Does the repetition of the blood spattering on the floor relate to Prometheus and his daily suffering at the hands of the vultures? I mean, doubtful, but... Does the film's use of the number 572 reveal a clue about the nature of the demon? Yes. According to Sacred Scribes angelnumbers.blogspot.com, the number 572 is a combination of the vibrations and attributes of number 5 and number 7, and the influences of the number 2. Number 5 resonates with major life changes, making positive choices and decisions, promotion and advancements, adaptability and versatility, and oh my god, will you just let yourself feel something without rationalizing it? And yes, I know if you're neurospicy, you literally cannot do that. And this experience is probably going to suck for you if you approach it as a puzzle. To watch Skinamarink, though, is to jettison the rational and to lock yourself into the fever dream of a small child. You stare in puzzlement at a doll affixed to the ceiling. You watch with trepidation through the eyes of a child as you obey the command to look under the bed. You recoil with horror at the sight of a girl with no eyes or mouth. None of this is meant to make sense. It is meant to be an invitation into the void. And as we all know, when you stare into the void
stares back.